Hey guys, tonight we head for the forge. We're going to a place where the air is thick with the sharp smell of coal smoke and hot iron. A place where fire is a tool and steel bends to a strong will. Out on the street, the dust of the trail settles as the sun bleeds out behind the mountains. But in here, the only light comes from the glowing, hungry heart of the fire. The world outside is one of long odds and longer memories. A place where a man's past can catch up to him faster than a racing locomotive. It's a gripping, dangerous ride we're on tonight, and if you're not careful, you probably won't survive this ride with your heart unscarred. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I always get a kick out of seeing how far these stories travel, so feel free to drop your location and local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The rhythm is your sanctuary. The roar of the bellows breathing life into the coal. The sharp, metallic hiss of hot steel plunged into the quenching tub. And above all, the ringing, percussive song of the hammer on the anvil. Clang, hiss, clang. It is a prayer spoken in sweat. And force. It is the only language you have left. Here, in the smoky confines of your forge, you are not Caleb, the man with a past he can't outrun. You are simply the blacksmith. A force of nature. A master of elements. Your arms, slick with sweat and corded with muscle, move with the precision born of 1,000 hours of practice. You draw a long piece of iron from the forge's white-hot heart, its end glowing with the intensity of a captured star. The heat washes over your face, a familiar, punishing baptism. You lay the iron on the anvil, and the hammer falls. Clang. A shower of brilliant orange sparks erupts, dancing in the gloom before dying on the packed dirt floor. You turn the iron. Clang. You shape it. You control it. You take this raw, unyielding material and bend it to your will, giving it purpose. Today, it's a broken share for a farmer's steel plow, one of the new designs that can actually cut through the stubborn prairie sod. Without it, he can't plant. If he can't plant, his family can't eat. You are the linchpin of this town, the fulcrum on which its survival balances. And this knowledge is both a burden and a comfort. The townsfolk of Redemption Gulch see a quiet, solitary man. They see the strength in your shoulders, the soot permanently ground into the lines of your hands. They know you as fair and skilled. You charge a reasonable price, and your work holds. But they keep their distance. You prefer it that way. Your words are few, your transactions brief. The forge is your fortress, its noise a bulwark against the world, and more importantly, against the silence in your own head. Historians back east write about the West being built by great men. The railroad barons, the cattle kings, the politicians. They spin tales of grand ambition and political maneuvering. You know the truth. The West is being built by ordinary men and women with calloused hands and aching backs. It is built with plowshares and wagon wheels and horseshoes. It is built here in the dirt and the fire, one ringing blow at a time. This town's future depends more on the integrity of the weld you are about to make than on any deal struck. In the saloon. You thrust the iron back into the fire, watching the color change from dull red to bright orange, then to a blinding yellow-white. The heat is perfect. As you work, your mind drifts. You hammer your own private mark into the steel. A small, barely noticeable swirl. It's not for decoration. Some old-timers believe in strange superstitions, in witches' marks forged into iron to ward off evil. Your mark isn't for them. It's for you. A signature from a life you left behind, a symbol whose meaning you have tried to forget. A wagon rattles. Passed on the street outside, its wheel hitting a rock with a sharp crack that sounds almost like a gunshot. You flinch. Your hammer stills in mid-air. Your right hand, empty, clenches instinctively, your thumb searching for the familiar, worn checkering of a pistol grip that hasn't been there for 5 years. The memory floods you, the smell of gunpowder, not coal smoke. The screams of men, not the hiss of steel. A different kind of fire. A different kind of hammer got clanged out. You bring the hammer down with savage force, driving the memory back into the dark corners of your mind where it belongs. You will not be that man again. Here, you are a creator, not a destroyer. Here, the only things that die are the sparks from your anvil. The light outside begins to fade. You finish the repair, the new weld clean and strong. You bank the fire for the night, and the roaring heart of the forge slowly quiets. The silence that rushes in to take its place is a physical presence. It is heavy, suffocating, and filled with the ghosts you've been holding at bay all day. You stand alone in the center of your shop, a powerful man who can command fire and shape steel, but who is utterly powerless against the quiet of the coming night. The morning brings no relief, only a return to the familiar ritual. The fire, the steel, the hammer. You welcome the sweat and the noise. They are your armor against the quiet of your own mind. The town of Redemption Gulch stirs around you, a slow crawl of wagons and horses, kicking up the ever-present dust. You are shoeing a mule for a prospector. The animal's stubbornness, a familiar and uncomplicated challenge. When the sound of the stagecoach horn cuts through the air, its arrival is the day's main event, a dusty link to the world you left behind. Normally, you pay it no mind. The stage brings only 2 things, trouble and people looking to cause it. But today, something makes you pause. You set down the mule's hoof, giving the animal a reassuring pat, and step into the wide-open doorway of your forge. Letting the shadows conceal you dot the coach, a battered Concorde caked in the grime of 1,000 miles, lurches to a stop in front of the saloon, sending a cloud of alkali dust into the air. A few rough-looking men, loitering on the saloon porch, stop their talk to watch, their eyes narrowed with predatory curiosity. The door swings open, and a woman steps out. She is dressed head to toe in stark, simple black. The dress is well made, but plain, without the fashionable bustles or frills of the East. It is the practical attire of a woman in mourning, a widow. She moves with a grace that seems entirely out of place in this grimy, sun-bleached town. Her posture is ramrod straight, her chin held high, a small island of dignity in a sea of leering eyes. You watch as the men on the porch exchange smirks, their comments low and crude enough that you can guess their meaning even from across the street. You feel a familiar ugly anger tighten in your gut, an emotion you have learned to deek back with the blows of your hammer. The woman, however, seems not to notice. Or, more likely, she has chosen to ignore them. She turns to the driver, her voice too quiet for you to hear, and he unstraps a single, heavy trunk and a smaller carpet bag from the roof of the coach. This, you realize, must be the new school teacher. The town council, in a rare fit of civic ambition, had pooled its resources to hire one. It was a sign that Redemption Gulch was trying to claw its way from a rough mining camp to a respectable town, a part of the great educational push spurred by laws like the Morial Acts, which were founding colleges and schools all across the nation. Bringing a teacher here was an attempt to plant civilization in the hard soil of the frontier. And here she stands. Civilization, in a black dress, utterly alone. Historians and dime novelists love to talk about the civilizing influence of women in the West. They paint the schoolmarm as a gentle, saintly figure who tames the wild hearts of cowboys with scripture and poetry. You look at this woman, and you see the flaw in that romantic theory. She may be here to civilize, but her first and most immediate task will be to survive. You see it in the way she holds herself, a defensive tension in her shoulders. You see it in the way her eyes, a startlingly clear shade of blue, sweep over the town, not with fear, but with a cool, assessing intelligence. There is a core of something hard and unbending beneath the delicate facade. She pays the driver, and with a strength that surprises you, she lifts one end of her heavy trunk. She begins to drag it through the dust, heading not for the boarding house, but for the dilapidated, abandoned shack at the far end of town that the council had designated as the new schoolhouse. The men on the porch laugh at her struggle, but she doesn't look at them. She just keeps pulling, one slow, determined step at a time. Her solitary dignity is a rebuke to the entire town. She is a woman of breeding and education, brought low by some private tragedy, and now forced to haul her life's possessions through the dirt while lesser men mock her. The sight stirs something in you, something beyond the protective anger you felt a moment ago. It's a flicker of recognition. Her quiet determination, her refusal to break under the weight of public scrutiny and private sorrow. It reminds you of the temper of good steel. After it has been through the fire, you watch until she is a small, dark figure growing smaller. With every step, a stark exclamation point of grief against the vast, indifferent landscape. She is headed for a building with a leaking roof and a broken door. In a town that sees her as either a curiosity or a target, you turn back to the heat of your forge. The image of her lonely procession burned into your mind. You pick up your hammer, its weight familiar and reassuring in your hand. But as you bring it down upon the glowing iron, the ringing sound that fills the shop seems different. It is no longer just a noise to drown out the past. It feels like a countdown. A slow, steady heartbeat in a town where trouble has just stepped off the stage. A few days pass in the familiar, rhythmic cadence of your work. You have caught glimpses of the widow, Anna. You've seen her single-handedly wrestling with a broken shutter on the schoolhouse, seen her scrubbing the grime from its windows, her small figure a whirlwind of tireless activity. Each evening, a lamp burns late in the schoolhouse, a solitary beacon of defiance in the encroaching darkness. You watch it from the shadows of your forge, a silent observer, feeling a grudging respect for her tenacity. She is trying to build something here. You are simply trying to hide. You are shaping a new coulter for a farmer's plow when a shadow falls across your anvil. You look up from the glowing iron. It's not the farmer. It's one of the men who loiters around the saloon, a man with shifty eyes and the kind of swagger that's meant to hide a weak spine. You know the type. He works for Marcus Thorne when it suits him. He doesn't want a tool mended. He smirks and slaps a pistol down on a cluttered workbench. Firing pins busted, Smithy. Fix it. You stare at the gun. It's a Colt single. Action Army, the peacemaker. An icon of the West, and an instrument of your own personal damnation. For 5 years, you have refused to touch them. Your work is making and mending things that create, that sustain. Plows, wagon wheels, hinges. A gun is a tool for unmaking, for breaking lives, for ending futures. I don't work on firearms, you say, your voice flat, turning back to your forge. The man chuckles, a nasty, grating sound. What kind of? Blacksmith can't fix a simple piece of steel? Thorne won't be happy to hear his man can't get his gun fixed. Bad for business. The name Thorne hangs in the air like a threat. Refusing could draw the kind of attention you've spent years avoiding. The kind of attention that asks questions, that looks too closely. With a surge of self-loathing, you relent. You walk over to the bench, the ghosts of your past whispering at your heels. The moment your fingers close around the Colt's checkered grip, it happens. The world around you recedes, the roar of the forge fades, and you are swept away by a tidal wave of memory. The weight of the gun is an extension of your own hand, a phantom limb you thought you'd amputated. You can feel the familiar balance, the cold, deadly purpose of it. The faint smell of gun oil fills your nostrils, overpowering the honest scent of coal and steel. You are no longer Caleb, the blacksmith. You are a ghost with another name, a name you haven't heard spoken in years, the ghost of Abilene. That's what they called you. You remember the roar of a dozen guns firing at once in a cramped saloon, the acrid taste of black powder smoke, the splintering of wood and the shattering of glass. You remember the cold dread of seeing your own face, sketched in stark black ink on a wanted poster flapping in the wind. And you remember the relentless fear of the men who hunted you. Men from the Pinkerton National Detective Agency, with their unblinking eye logo and their motto, "We never sleep." That's why you are here, in this forgotten corner of the world. You are hiding from men who never sleep. You test the hammer mechanism. It's gritty. Your thumb moves with an old, practiced instinct, a muscle memory you hate. You could still do it. You could still fan the hammer, firing 6 shots in a blur of motion, a trick that looked flashy in the dime novels, but in reality was a desperate, inaccurate spray of lead meant to scare, not to kill. The myth of the noble gunslinger, the quick draw, artist facing his foe at high noon, is a lie sold for 10 cents. You know the ugly reality. Gunfights are frantic, clumsy, terrifying affairs that leave even the winners bloodied and broken. With a grimace, you set about the repair. Your hands, so used to the heavy, honest work of the forge, move with a different kind of skill now, a nimble, precise deadliness you thought you'd forgotten. You forge a new firing pin from a sliver of high-carbon steel. Your hammer taps light and exact. You file it down, fit it, and reassemble the weapon with the cold efficiency of a surgeon dot as you work. You glance out the open doors of the forge. Across the dusty street, you see Anna shaking a rug out in front of the schoolhouse, battling the endless tide of frontier grime. She is bringing order to chaos, light to a dark corner. And here you are, holding the very instrument of that chaos, your hands tainted by its purpose. A chasm opens between your world and hers, and you feel a fierce, desperate need to keep it that way. To ensure your darkness never touches her light, you finish the repair and slide the pistol back across the bench. The man picks it up, inspects your work, and lets out a low whistle of appreciation. He cocks the hammer, and the clean, sharp click echoes in the forge like a death knell. He tosses a few coins on the bench and leaves the repaired pistol now tucked securely in his belt. You stand frozen for a long moment. Then you walk over to the quenching tub and plunge your hands into the grimy water, scrubbing them raw as if trying to wash away the memory, the feel of the gun, the stain of your past. But it's no use. The ghosts have been woken. You stare at your hands, the hands of a craftsman, and see only the hands of a killer. The days after the gun repair are a low-grade fever of anxiety. The feel of the pistol lingers on your hands long after you've scrubbed them raw. Every unfamiliar face that wanders into town makes the hairs on your neck stand up. You retreat deeper into your work, the roar of the forge a welcome wall of noise. You find yourself watching the schoolhouse more often. It has become a landmark in the landscape of your mind, a focal point of something clean and decent in a town that has very little of either. You watch Anna work. You see the small victories and the quiet frustrations. You see the way she greets the handful of children who now attend her school each morning, her smile genuine and warm. And you see her try to ring the old iron bell in the small open belfry atop the schoolhouse roof. The rope pulls, but the sound that emerges is a dull, pathetic clunk. The bell's voice is broken. It is meant to be the sound that orders the town's day, a clear signal of progress and education. But instead, it is a declaration of failure. This small, broken thing gets under your skin. It's a flaw in the world she is trying to build, a world you feel a desperate, unspoken need. To protect, you know you could fix it in under an hour. The cracked yoke of the clapper is a simple matter of forging and fitting. But to offer your help would be to step out of the shadows. It would mean conversation, questions, and a connection you cannot afford. It would draw the attention of men like Thorn. So you will not do it in the light. You will do it in the dark. That night, you wait. You wait until the raucous noise from the saloon has died down, until the last drunken cowboy has stumbled to his room. You wait until the town of Redemption Gulch is cloaked in the deep, silent blackness of a moonless night. Then you gather a small canvas roll of specialized tools, a hammer, a pair of tongs, a set of files, and you slip out of your forge. You move through the darkened streets with a predator's silence, a skill from your former life that serves a new, better purpose now. You stick to the alleyways, your boots making no sound in the soft dust. The town, which feels so coarse and threatening by day, is now peaceful, asleep under a blanket of brilliant stars. The air is cool and smells of pine from the mountains and the cold stone of the earth. The schoolhouse is a lonely silhouette at the edge of town. It looks small and vulnerable. You find the ladder you've seen, propped against the back wall, and quietly set it against the roof. The climb is easy, and soon you are in the small, open belfry, standing beside the source of the problem. The bell itself is old, cast iron, with a greenish patina of age. As you run your hand over its cool, rough surface, your fingers find a small raised inscription, nearly worn smooth by time and weather. J. Pass in J. Stowe, Filata, MDCCLXXVI. A founder's mark. You marvel at it for a moment. This bell, a silent piece of history, somehow made its way from a foundry in Philadelphia, nearly a century ago, all the way to this dusty, forgotten town. It's a testament to other craftsmen, a link that stretches across the vast continent. Turn your attention to the mechanism. As you suspected, the iron yoke that holds the clapper is cracked clean through. You work with a swift, silent efficiency. There is no fire here, no anvil. This is a different kind of craft, one of finesse and precision. You use a file to clean the break, your tools making only the faintest rasping sound. From your kit, you take a new yoke you forged earlier in the evening, shaping it from memory. You carefully fit it into place, securing it with a new hand-turned pin dot as you work. You are enacting a small piece of a much larger story. Before the railroads forced the issue, there was no standardized time. Each town lived by its own clock. A public bell like this one was the town's heartbeat. It announced the start of the workday, the call to worship, the time for children to learn. By fixing this bell, you are doing more than repairing a piece of metal. You are restoring a piece of the town's civic order, weaving it more tightly into the fabric of a structured, civilized world. It's a world you feel you have no place in, yet here you are, its silent architect. With the repair finished, you pause. Below you, through the still grimy window of the schoolhouse, you can see into the classroom. In the faint starlight, you can make out the neat rows of desks, a carefully written alphabet on the chalkboard, a small vase of wildflowers on the teacher's desk. You see the quiet, determined order she has carved out of the chaos, and you feel a profound, aching connection to her work. She is building with chalk and books. You are building with fire and steel. Perhaps you think they are not such different things after all. You slip away as silently as you arrived, leaving no trace, your good deed swallowed by the darkness. Next morning, you are at your anvil when the time comes. You watch from your doorway as Anna steps outside, takes hold of the thick rope, and gives it a tentative pull. Instead of a dull clunk, a sound erupts that shocks the morning quiet. A clear, bright, resonant peal that rolls across the rooftops, echoes through the valley, and announces to the entire world that school is in session. You see the look of pure, unadulterated joy and astonishment on her face as she stares up at the belfry in wonder. She does not know where the miracle came from. She only knows that the voice of her school is no longer broken. You turn back to the glowing heart of your forge, the sound of the bell still singing in your ears. And for the first time in years, a genuine secret smile touches your lips. The clear ringing sound of the schoolhouse bell becomes the new heartbeat of your day. It marks the morning, it marks the noon break, and it marks the close of lessons. Each time it rings, it's a secret message meant only for you, a confirmation of your unspoken kindness. You watch from your forge as Anna's small flock of students grows. A few more children each week, their parents encouraged by the bell's reliable call and the determined woman who rings it. The town, it seems, is slowly deciding to believe in the future she is trying to build. Your own life remains a rigid routine of fire and steel, but a new chapter has been added. It begins after the sun goes down, long after you've finished your work for the day. After you've eaten your solitary meal, you find yourself watching the small, square window of the schoolhouse at the edge of town. A single lamp burns there, a solitary star in the darkness. She is working late, marking papers, preparing lessons, fighting her own quiet war against ignorance. The schoolhouse is isolated, vulnerable. And while the main part of town quiets down after dusk, the saloon does not. It is a loud, chaotic beast, spilling drunken men into the street at all hours. Their path home, or to whatever boarding house they inhabit, often takes them right past. The lonely school. The combination of a lone woman, a single light, and cheap whiskey is a dangerous one. You know this with a certainty that makes your gut clench. So you begin your vigil. You don't leave the forge. That would be too conspicuous. Instead, you make a show of working late yourself. You keep the coals in the forge alive, a low pulsing red heart that throws just enough light to cast your large silhouette against the wide open doorway. You busy yourself with small tasks, sharpening a farmer's axe, tempering a set of chisels, organizing the chaos of your tools. To any passerby, you are simply the town's tireless blacksmith. But your attention is not on the steel in your hands. It is on the street. Your forge, perfectly positioned, gives you a clear, shadowed view of the schoolhouse. The threat, when it comes, is as predictable as the sunrise. A pair of miners, their pockets empty and their heads full of saloon whiskey, stagger down the street. Their laughter is loud and ugly. They see the light in the schoolhouse window. "Well, looky there," one of them slurs, pointing. "The little schoolmarm's burning the midnight oil." "Maybe she's lonely," the other one says with a nasty chuckle. "Ought to go keep her company." They veer off the main path, their boots crunching on the gravel as they head for her door. Your body tenses. The hammer in your hand suddenly feels less like a tool and more like a weapon. But violence is a fire that, once started, consumes everything. It is your last resort, not your first. You have other methods. You wait until they are halfway to her door. Then, with a casual movement, you lift a heavy 50-pound iron ingot from your workbench and accidentally let it slip from your grasp. It falls onto the solid steel face of your anvil. The resulting clang is not a musical ring. It is a deafening, explosive crack of sound that shatters the night's quiet like a rifle shot. It echoes off the false front buildings, a raw, percussive declaration of industrial power. The two miners jump, spinning around toward the sound. They see your massive silhouette framed in the doorway of the forge, the red glow of the coals behind you, making you look like some ancient, demonic creature. They see the hammer in your hand. They are drunk, not stupid. They exchange a nervous look, their bravado instantly evaporating. They mumble something to each other, then stumble back to the main street and disappear into the darkness. You stand, motionless until they are gone. This becomes your routine. A few nights a week, some drunken fools get an idea. And a few nights a week, a sudden, sharp noise from the blacksmith's shop startles them into thinking better of it. You become the town's unofficial, unknown guardian. You are standing at the intersection of the town's two great forces. Down the street, the saloon, with its cheap slush lamps burning smelly animal grease, represents the chaos and vice that the temperance movement, so beloved by women like Anna, is fighting against. At the other end, the schoolhouse, with its single steady kerosene lamp, represents order, education, and hope. And you, in the middle, are the silent arbiter, the man in the shadows, ensuring the one is protected from the other. Historians will argue whether the West was truly as violent as the stories claim. Was it a place of constant gunfights, or was the threat of violence simply a background noise? You know the truth. The threat is always there, simmering. The real work of peace isn't always in the grand, heroic shootout. It's in the small, nightly acts of prevention. It's in the loud noise that stops a fight before it can begin. Later, the light in the schoolhouse window goes out. The night is complete. You watch the darkened building for a few minutes more, a silent sentinel. Only when you are certain that all is safe do you finally bank the last of the embers in your forge. The fire dies, and the ghosts of your past creep back in, but tonight they seem a little more distant. Your new purpose, this secret vigil, is a shield not just for her, but for you as well. The first cold snap of autumn arrives without warning, a sharp, biting wind that sweeps down from the mountains and scours the warmth from the valley. It's a harbinger of the brutal winter to come, a reminder that in the West, the most relentless enemy is often the weather itself. The dust on the street hardens into a frozen crust, and the joyful shouts of Anna's students are now muffled by scarves and coats. The cold brings a new crisis. One morning, you see the children being sent home early, their faces pinched and disappointed. A plume of ugly black smoke is trickling from the schoolhouse chimney, but none is coming from its windows. Later, you see Anna on her knees by the school's main door, her hands black with soot, trying in vain to clear a blockage from the old furnace. Her shoulders are slumped in defeat. The cold has breached her walls. Her school cannot function. Without heat. You know, with a sinking feeling in your gut, what is about to happen. You cannot hide from this problem. An hour later, she appears at the wide-open doorway of your forge. She stands silhouetted against the bright, cold glare of the street, a hesitant figure on the threshold of your dark, smoky world. She clutches a shawl around herself, her face smudged with soot, her pride warring with the desperation in her eyes. "Mr. Kane?" She begins, her voice quiet but clear over the low roar of your banked fire. "I'm sorry to trouble you. It's the furnace at the school. It won't draw. It just fills the room with smoke. This is it, the moment you have been avoiding. A direct request for help that you cannot refuse, either as a craftsman or as the man who has secretly appointed himself her protector. I'll take a look." You say, the words feeling rough and foreign in your throat. You gather your tools, and for the first time, you walk together through the town in broad daylight. The eyes of Redemption Gulch are on you. The women peer from behind their curtains. The men in front of the saloon stop their whittling to stare. They see the two of you, the town's silent, intimidating blacksmith and its prim, respectable school teacher, and they whisper. The sight of you together is an event, a disruption to the town's rigid social order. You step inside the schoolhouse, and you are entering her world. It is a world of surprising order and care. The single room is cold, smelling of soot and chilled air, but it is meticulously clean. Children's drawings of horses and houses are tacked to the wall. A row of neatly stacked books sits on her desk next to a copy of the Old Farmer's Almanac, its pages dog-eared. You see the alphabet she has carefully written on the chalkboard. Her penmanship as elegant as her signature in the town ledger. The almanac predicts a hard winter, she says quietly, following your gaze. Her worry is a tangible thing in the cold room. You grunt in response and turn your attention to the source of the problem, a large, cast-iron potbelly stove that serves as the school's furnace. It's an old model, its surface covered in rust and neglect. You run a practiced hand over its cold surface. You check the flue, the damper, the grate. After a few minutes of diagnosis, you find the issues. A thick, greasy buildup of creosote is blocking the flue, and worse, a key baffle plate inside has warped from years of overheating and cooling, preventing a proper draft. It's bad. You state, more to yourself than to her, but it can be fixed. For the next 2 hours you work, and for the first time you talk. The work bridges the chasm between your two worlds. She, the woman of words and ideas, asks intelligent questions about the properties of cast iron versus forged steel. You, the man of action and fire, find yourself explaining the process, your hands moving with practiced ease as you dismantle the stovepipe, clean out the choking soot, and use a specialized set of tongs and levers to carefully bend the warped plate back into shape. This isn't the rigid separation of masculine and feminine work the world dictates. It's a collaboration, a partnership born of necessity. You are both using your skills to save this small outpost of civilization. Finally, the work is done. You reassemble the stove, your hands sure and steady. You lay a small pile of kindling inside and strike a match. You open the damper, and this time the stove takes the flame with a satisfying whoosh. A proper draft is established. The smoke goes up the chimney where it belongs. A deep, resonant warmth begins to push back against the room's oppressive chill. You stand up, wiping the soot from your hands onto an old rag. Elara is standing by her desk, her arms wrapped around herself, but this time it is not from cold or fear. She is watching the stove, a look of profound relief on her face. The warmth spreading through the room is the warmth of her school's survival. The bell, she says softly, not looking at you, but at the stove's gentle orange glow. And now this. You seem to be this town's guardian angel, Mr. Kane. She knows, or at least she suspects. The secret of your first kindness is no longer a secret. You don't answer, just grunt and gather your tools. The silence that follows is not awkward. It is a shared understanding. Please, she says, her voice suddenly shy, let me make you some coffee. As thanks. You look at her, at the genuine gratitude in her eyes, at the warmth now filling the small room she has fought so hard for. And for the first time, your need for solitude is overcome by a desire not to disappoint her. All right, you say. And as you sit at one of the small student desks, watching her prepare the coffee, you feel a strange and unfamiliar sensation spreading through your chest, a warmth that has nothing to do with the furnace. The coffee is hot and strong, and for a short while, the warmth of the furnace and the quiet conversation hold the world at bay. You sit on the small student stool, feeling ridiculously large, and listen as Anna speaks. She doesn't talk about her past or the husband she lost. She talks about the future. She talks about her students with a fierce passion, about the bright boy who can already read passages aloud, about the shy girl who draws beautiful pictures of horses. She believes education is the only thing that can give these children a life, beyond the dust and violence of a town like this. For the first time in years, you are not thinking about your past. You are listening to someone talk about hope. It is in the midst of this fragile peace that a shadow falls across the open doorway. You both look up. A man stands there, framed by the bright, cold sunlight. He is in his 50s, dressed in a finely tailored suit of dark wool that seems utterly out of place in Redemption Gulch. His silver hair is neatly trimmed, his boots polished to a high shine. He carries himself with an air of absolute, unshakable authority. He does not ask to enter. He simply waits to be acknowledged, as if the entire town, including this small schoolhouse, were his private drawing room. This is Marcus Thorne. A chill that has nothing to do with the weather enters the room. Good afternoon. Schoolteacher, Thorne says, his voice a smooth, cultured baritone that fails to mask its condescending edge. He steps inside, his eyes sweeping the room, taking in the children's drawings, the neat desks, and finally, you. He gives you a dismissive glance, the kind a man gives a piece of furniture or a hired hand. And the blacksmith, how industrious of you. Anna rises to her feet, her posture instantly becoming more formal. Mr. Thorne, to what do we owe the pleasure? I am the founder of this town, my dear. Its pleasures and its problems are all my concern, he says with a thin smile. I came to congratulate you. The bell is a spirited addition to our town's soundscape, and I see you've managed to get the furnace working. Excellent. His praise feels like a threat. He walks slowly around the room, running a gloved finger over a desktop. I have a great vision for this town, you see. Progress, commerce, a jewel in this wild territory. I own the saloon, the freight company, the hotel. This town runs on my investments. I am, in essence, its primary citizen. He is describing a company town, a place where his economic power and his political will are one and the same. He stops in the middle of the room and turns to face Anna, which brings me to the purpose of my visit. This humble building. It sits on a prime parcel of land, did you know? Direct access to the main street. Perfect for expansion. A new, larger hotel, perhaps. Or a warehouse for my freight business. Something that generates real profit. The core of the conflict is laid bare. It is the timeless debate of the frontier. What constitutes progress? Is it the quiet, long-term investment in community and education that Anna represents? Or is it the loud, immediate promise of profit and commerce that Thorne embodies? A school, Thorne continues, his smile never wavering, is a noble sentiment, but it is poor business. I am afraid the town council, of which I am the most significant member, may have to re-evaluate the practicality of this location. You watch him, silent. You notice the slight bulge in his tailored vest. He's not wearing a holster like the other men in town. He carries a gentleman's weapon, a small, concealable vest pocket pistol. It is a subtle but clear statement. His civility is a thin veneer over a readiness for violence. Anna does not flinch. Her hands are clasped in front of her, her knuckles white, but her voice is steady. Mr. Thorne, my contract is with the people of this town to educate their children. This school is more important to the future of Redemption Gulch than any hotel. Is it? Thorne says, raising a silver eyebrow. He takes a step closer to her. This is a rough place for a woman on her own. Things happen. Fires, accidents. Support from the community can be a fickle thing. It would be a tragedy if your noble endeavor were to fail. The threat is no longer veiled. It is a cold, hard promise. You have been silent until now, a coiled spring in the corner of the room. You slowly rise to your full height from the small stool. The motion is deliberate, quiet, but it draws Thorne's full attention. You do not speak. You simply stand behind Anna, a mountain of silent muscle and iron will. You are her protector. And in that moment, everyone in the room knows it. Thorne's eyes narrow as he assesses you, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. You are an unexpected variable in his calculations. He had come here to intimidate a lone woman, not to face a blacksmith with shoulders as wide as an anvil. He holds your gaze for a long moment, then lets out a short, humorless laugh. He turns back to Anna, his polite mask firmly back in place. A spirited defense, schoolteacher, most admirable. He tips his hat. I am certain we will speak of this again. He turns and walks out, leaving an oppressive silence in his wake. The warmth from the furnace seems to have been sucked out of the room, replaced by the icy chill of his threat. You look at Anna. Her face is pale, but her eyes are shining with defiance. The battle lines have been drawn. Thorn has shown his hand, and you both know he will not hesitate to crush the small world of hope she is trying to build. The warmth of the shared coffee fades, but a different kind of warmth lingers. A fragile connection has been forged in the small, clean schoolroom. However, the icy presence of Marcus Thorn leaves a chill that seeps deep into your bones. You return to your forge, but the rhythm of your work is gone, replaced by a tense, watchful vigilance. You know Thorn's threat was not an idle one. He is a man who squeezes, and he will not stop until he has crushed whatever stands in his way. You don't have to wait long. The first attack comes 2 nights later. You are banking the coals in your forge, the last task of a long day, when you hear it. Not the usual drunken shouting from the saloon, but a more malicious sound. The sharp, splintering crack of shattering glass, followed by a burst of cruel, mocking laughter. It comes from the direction of the schoolhouse. Every muscle in your body goes rigid. You grab the heaviest hammer from your workbench, 2-pound ball peen, its handle worn smooth from your grip, and move silently to the dark doorway of your forge. Peering into the moonlit street, you see them. 2 figures, recognizable even in the dark as Thorn's most loyal thugs, running away from the schoolhouse, their laughter echoing back down the empty street. Your first instinct is to give chase, to let the rage that boils in your blood take over. But you stop yourself. An open confrontation now would be playing their game. It would give Thorn the excuse he needs to paint you as a violent brute. Your past has taught you the hard lesson of patience, of choosing your own ground. Instead, you wait until the hour before dawn, when the darkness is at its deepest and the town is sound asleep. You take a lantern and make your way to the schoolhouse. The sight makes your hands clench around the handle of your hammer. One of the front windows is a jagged maw of broken glass. A heavy rock rests on the floor amidst the shards. But the rock was just the beginning. You step inside. The vandals did their work with a vicious, petty cruelty. Inkwells have been overturned, their black contents staining the neat wooden desks and pooling on the floorboards. On the chalkboard, where Anna had carefully written a lesson on long division, a crude message has been scrawled in chalk. Go home, schoolmarm. The misspelling is almost as insulting as the message itself, a detail that reminds you of the lurid, sensational headlines of the cheap penny dreadfuls that promote violence as entertainment. Worse, they tore the children's drawings from the wall and trampled them on the floor. It is an act of profound cowardice. This isn't a fight against a man. It's an attack on a woman and the children she is trying to teach. This is not the work of noble outlaws or so-called social bandits fighting for the common man. This is the work of common thugs, hired muscle, enforcing the will of a greedy tyrant. Seeing it, you feel the ghosts of your own past rise up, not with a sense of kinship, but with a bitter, burning disgust. You set down your lantern and get to work. You sweep up the glass. You scrub the ink from the floorboards as best you can. You erase the hateful message from the chalkboard. You cannot fix everything, but you can lessen the blow. You can try to shield her from the worst of the violation. She arrives just as the sun is rising, her face etched with worry when she sees your lantern light inside. She stops dead in the doorway, taking in the scene, the lingering smell of spilled ink, the boarded-up window you've temporarily patched. Her face goes pale, but as her eyes meet yours, you see the initial shock harden into a cold, diamond-hard anger. "Thank you, Caleb," she says, her voice quiet but steady. Her use of your first name is a small but significant shift. You are no longer Mr. Kane, the blacksmith. You are Caleb, her ally. The lesson in fear, however, has just begun. When the children arrive, they see the boarded window and their ruined drawings. Fear is a poison, and it spreads quickly. That afternoon, 3 of the 12 students do not return. Their parents, hard-working people who cannot afford to have their children endangered, have been intimidated. Thorne's plan is working perfectly. He is not just attacking a building. He is using fear to dismantle the very idea of the school. He is relying on his private army of thugs, his own unofficial committee of vigilantes, to enforce his will where the law cannot. That evening, you stand in the doorway of your forge. The schoolhouse looks wounded but defiant. As the sun sets, Anna steps outside, takes hold of the thick rope, and rings the bell. The clear, bright peal rings out over the town, a sound that is no longer just a call to learn, but an act of open defiance. It is a declaration of war. It tells Thorne and the whole town that she will not be broken. Watching her, you know your role as a secret guardian is no longer enough. The attacks will escalate. The shadows are no longer a safe place from which to watch. Soon, you will have to step into the light and bring the fire and steel of your trade to a different kind of fight. The defiance of the bell becomes a daily ritual, a small war waged in sound waves. But the victory is a hollow one. The schoolroom remains half empty, the shadow of Thorne's intimidation keeping frightened parents from sending their children. Anna, you can see, is growing weary. The light in her lamp burns later each night. Her shoulders seem to carry a heavier weight, but her pride does not let her bend. You continue your silent, nightly vigil, but now it is laced with a frustrated impotence. Your secret actions can deter drunks, but they cannot fight a war of fear in broad daylight. You feel like a man trying to dam a river with his bare hands. The breaking point comes on a Tuesday. It's late afternoon, the sun casting long, sharp shadows across the street. Anna dismisses the last of her few students and locks the schoolhouse door. She needs supplies from the general store: paper, chalk, a small sack of flour. Her shoulders are straight, and her head is held high as she begins the long walk down the main street, a journey that has become a gauntlet. You watch from the doorway of your forge, a heavy ball-peen hammer resting in your hand. You tell yourself you are just taking a break, but you are not. You are standing watch as she draws parallel to the saloon. The double doors swing open. The 2 thugs who vandalized her school step out, followed by 2 more of Thorne's men. They are not drunk this time. They are sober, and that makes them infinitely more dangerous. They fan out, blocking her path. The street, which had been bustling with the day's end activities, goes quiet. Wagons slow to a halt. Conversations die. People watch from a distance, their faces impassive masks. No one moves to help. The town is paralyzed, held in the grip of Thorne's power. The men form a loose, intimidating circle around Anna. They don't touch her. They don't have to. Their physical presence, their leering smirks, their utter lack of respect is an assault in itself. They violate the most basic, unwritten law of the frontier, that a decent woman should be given safe passage. Well, if it ain't the high and mighty school norm. One of them sneers, spitting a stream of tobacco juice near her feet. They keep their hats on, a deliberate and profound gesture of disrespect, a signal that in their eyes she has no standing, no honor worth acknowledging. Lost your way, Mom? Another one chuckles. Looking for a different kind of lesson? Anna stands frozen, her face pale as bone, her small bag of groceries clutched to her chest like a shield. She says nothing, refusing to give them the satisfaction of a response. But you can see the terror in her eyes, and in that moment, something inside you shatters. The vow you made to yourself to remain hidden, to avoid trouble at all costs, to never again be the man you were, collides with a more fundamental, more powerful imperative. You cannot stand by and watch this. The ghosts of your past scream at you to stay in the shadows. At the sight of her, alone and surrounded, drags you into the light. You set the ball-peen hammer down. You turn and pick up the one tool you reserve for the heaviest work, a 16-pound sledgehammer used for straightening wagon axles and driving massive spikes. Its handle is long and smooth, its head a block of solid, unforgiving steel. Holding it, you feel a familiar, terrible power settle over you. You walk out of the dark of your forge into the bright, unforgiving sunlight. You don't run. You don't shout. You walk with a slow, deliberate purpose, your heavy boots thudding on the hard-packed earth. The crowd parts before you. The only sound on the street is the rhythmic beat of your steps. The thugs see you coming. Their laughter falters. They turn to face you, their smirks replaced by expressions of uncertainty. You don't stop until you are standing right behind them, so close you can smell the cheap whiskey on their breath. You say nothing. You just stand there, a silent, monolithic threat, the sledgehammer held loosely at your side. Your shadow engulfs them. The leader of the group, a man with a jagged scar on his cheek, tries to muster some bravado. This ain't none of your business, Smithy. Go back to your fire. You raise your eyes from him and look directly at Anna, a small, almost imperceptible nod of acknowledgement. You are publicly aligning yourself with her. Then you look back at the man. Your voice, when it comes, is a low, quiet rumble, more terrifying than any shout. She is my business. You shift your grip slightly on the sledgehammer. The movement. A silent promise. Now move. For a long second, he weighs his options. He looks at your face, cold and impassive as the anvil in your shop. He looks at the sledgehammer, a tool capable of shattering rock and bone with equal ease. He looks at his friends, who are already starting to back away. He has lost. He spits on the ground again, mutters a curse, and shoves his way back through. The swinging doors of the saloon, his men trailing after him like curs. The street comes back to life. The moment is over. The spectators, released from their paralysis, hurry on their way. It is just you and Anna standing in the middle of the dusty street. She is looking at you, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear, relief, and a profound gratitude. That leaves you breathless. You have done more than save her from harassment. You have stepped out of the shadows. You have become the heroic artisan of the American mythos, the craftsman forced by circumstance to become a protector. You have drawn a line forged of iron and will, right down the center of Redemption Gulch, and dared Marcus Thorne to cross it. The time for hiding is over. You walk Anna the rest of the way to the general store. You don't speak. You simply stand guard outside, your formidable presence a far better deterrent than any lawman's badge. The walk back to her schoolhouse is a silent procession down the center of the street. The entire town of Redemption Gulch watches you go. The power dynamic has been broken in public, and the quiet has a new quality not of fear, but of stunned anticipation. That evening, after the last of the sunlight has drained from the sky, she comes to your forge. The great doors are open, the heat of the banked coals, a welcome reprieve from the night's chill. She steps into the circle of firelight, her face serious, her eyes holding a new kind of light, not fear, but strategic fire. Thank you, Caleb. She says, the name still feeling new between you. You did more than help me today. You gave the town a reason to hope. Hope don't stop men like Thorn, you grunt, turning a piece of iron in the coals. No, she agrees, stepping closer. It doesn't. Your actions bought us time, but that's all. Thorn owns the town council. I received a notice this afternoon. They've called a meeting for the end of the week. The official topic is municipal land usage. The real topic is shutting down my school. You look at her, seeing the hard truth. Your public stand was a moral victory, but Thorn is shifting the battlefield back to one he controls, politics and law. But he doesn't control everyone. She continues, her voice gaining strength. And his power is based on the idea that he is the only authority. We have to show them that he isn't. This is her world, you realize. The world of ideas, of structures, of organized thought. She begins to lay out a plan that is as elegant and sharp as a newly forged blade. She explains that in America, power doesn't just flow from the top down. Citizens have always formed their own voluntary associations to get things done when the government, or in this case, the corrupt town, boss fails them. We will form our own authority, she declares. A Redemption Gulch school board, made up of the parents and citizens who believe in what we are doing. It will have a charter. It will have minutes. It will be official. It's a brilliant move. Thorn wields coercive power, the power of fear and money. Anna is proposing you create legitimate power, built on community consent and a shared goal. To make it work, she says, her gaze steady, it needs a leader, a president, someone the town respects for their skill and, frankly, fears for their strength. Someone who can guarantee the board's decisions are enforced. She is asking you to step fully into the light, not just as a protector, but as a leader. 2 nights later, a meeting is held in the schoolhouse. The room is warm from the furnace you repaired, a small bubble of safety against the hostile night. 12 people have come, the parents of the remaining students and a few others, like the farmer whose plow you mended. They are nervous, huddled. Together, their faces a mixture of fear and determination. Anna stands before them, calm and articulate. She lays out Thorn's threats and the council's impending action. Then she makes her proposal, the formation of an independent school board to manage the school's affairs. She suggests a subscription school model where each family pays a small monthly fee for their child's tuition. This would give the school its own source of funding, independent of Thorn's influence. It's a call for the community to invest in its own future. Then she looks to you. All eyes in the room turn. You step forward from the back of the room, where you have been standing, your large frame filling the space. Your words are few and plain, but they land with the weight of your hammer. I will serve as president of this board. You announce, your voice a low rumble. My forge is open to any family that signs the charter. Your tools will be mended. Your horses will be shod. And I give you my word, any child that comes to this school will be safe. I will see to it personally. It is a vow, a public oath. Anna produces a single sheet of paper, a charter she has carefully written out by hand. Those who stand with the school, please sign here, she says. There is a long, tense moment of silence. Then the farmer whose plow you fixed stands up, walks to the front, taking the pen from Anna. One by one, the others follow. They are terrified, but your promise has given them the courage they needed. You sign last, your big, blocky signature at the top of the list. Anna signs below you, as secretary, her elegant script a beautiful contrast to your own. The document is a declaration of independence. The meeting ends, and the new board members slip away into the night, their fear now tempered by a shared resolve. You and Anna are left alone in the quiet schoolroom. The handwritten charter lies on the teacher's desk between you, illuminated by the single lantern. You have forged a new alliance, not just with each other, but with a faction of the town itself. You have created a new center of power in Redemption Gulch, a direct challenge to Thorn's iron grip. You look at the determined woman across from you, and you know you are no longer just a blacksmith trying to hide. You are the president of a rebellion. The formation of the school board sends a tremor through the town. For a few days, an unnerving quiet descends. Marcus Thorn is a predator who understands the value of patience. He withdraws, leaving you and the rest of the town to wonder what his next move will be. The silence is more terrifying than his threats. You know he is not defeated. He is planning. The political challenge you and Anna mounted has failed to chasten him. It has only convinced him that subtlety is no longer required. You take to sleeping on a cot in the forge, the nights too tense to find rest in your small room above. You keep the coals banked low, a bed of watchful red eyes in the darkness. Beside your cot, you place a heavy quenching fork, a 3-foot-long spear of solid iron with 2 sharp tines, designed for dousing hot steel. It is a tool of your trade, but tonight it feels like a weapon. Your vigilance pays off just before midnight on the 3rd night. It's not a sound that wakes you from your light, restless sleep, but a smell. The sharp, chemical bite of kerosene. A scent that has no place in a blacksmith's shop. Your eyes snap open. Your heart hammers against your ribs. You grab the quenching fork, its weight cold and solid in your hand, and move with the ghost-like silence of your past to the forge's doorway. You see them. 4 men, moving like shadows in the moonless dark. They are splashing the kerosene mixture from heavy cans onto the dry, wooden walls of the schoolhouse. You see the glint of a lantern and the flicker of a lit torch. This is not vandalism. This is an execution. They mean to burn it to the ground, with no chance of it being saved. The liquid they're using isn't just kerosene. It smells like it's been mixed with turpentine, a crude but effective incendiary designed to burn hot. Fast, to cling to the wood and defy water dot, there is no time for a warning. No time for a challenge. The man with the torch is taking a step forward. You don't think. You react. You erupt from the darkness of your forge, a vengeful apparition of soot and muscle. You are not Caleb the blacksmith anymore. You are the ghost of Abilene, and the quiet life you tried to build has just gone up in flames. The man with the torch is your first target. Before he can react, you lunge forward, the quenching fork held like a battering ram. The iron tines catch him square in the chest, not piercing him, but knocking the wind from his lungs and sending him crashing back against the schoolhouse wall. The torch flies from his hand, extinguishing in the dust. One threat neutralized. The other 3 turn, their faces shocked in the dim lantern light. They weren't expecting a fight. They were expecting a sleeping town. They recover quickly, pulling knives and clubs. They converge on you. The fight is a brutal, chaotic dance in the dark. It has none of the clean, heroic lines of a dime novel. Duel. This is the ugly reality of frontier violence that the historian Frederick Jackson Turner wrote about, the stripping away of civilization's veneer, leaving only the primitive struggle to survive. A man with a club swings for your head. You block with the thick handle of the fork, the wood vibrating from the impact. You pivot, using the momentum to slam the heavy iron end into his gut. He doubles over, gasping. The 3rd man, a burly former, logger wearing sharp-spiked caulker boots, tries to kick your legs out from under you. You sidestep, the spikes scraping uselessly against the packed earth. The 4th man comes at you with a knife, its blade a sliver of deadly light. You parry his lunge with the fork, the sound of steel on steel ringing loud in the night. You shove him back, creating space. You are 1 man against 4, but the forge has made you a creature of immense strength, and your past has made you no stranger to violence. You are a whirlwind of controlled fury, the quenching fork a seamless extension of your will. But as you are occupied, the first man you struck down, recovered and desperate, fumbles for a match. He strikes it on the wall of the schoolhouse and throws it onto the kerosene-soaked wood. The wall ignites with a terrifying whoosh. A sheet of orange flame crawls instantly up the side of the building, illuminating the violent tableau in a flickering, hellish light. The roar of the fire is answered by a cry from the schoolhouse door. It's Anna, woken by the commotion, her face a pale mask of horror. For a second, she freezes. Then, as the flames climb higher, her terror is replaced by a ferocious resolve. She disappears back inside, then reemerges, dragging 2 heavy fire buckets filled with water. She doesn't scream. She doesn't run. While you fight the men, she begins to fight the fire. The sight of her courage, her refusal to abandon her post, even in the face of this inferno, gives you a fresh surge of adrenaline. You turn on the remaining thugs with a final, decisive fury. A brutal swing of the fork disables one. A powerful kick sends the other sprawling. The last man, seeing the fight is lost, turns and flees into the darkness. You stand panting, your knuckles bleeding, your body bruised, the quenching fork held tight in your grip. The immediate human threat is over. You have won the physical battle. But as you turn, you see the fire raging, greedily consuming the wall of the schoolhouse. Anna is a lone, small figure, bravely throwing bucket after bucket of water against a growing wall of flame, a battle she cannot possibly win alone. Your trial by fire has just begun. Dropping the fork, you grab the other buckets and run to join her in the desperate fight to save her dream from the ashes. The world shrinks to the frantic, desperate rhythm of the bucket brigade. You and Anna work side by side, a seamless 2-person army against the raging fire. You haul the water from the well. She throws it with a desperate accuracy against the base of the flames. The heat is a physical blow, the smoke a choking blanket. Your lungs burn, your eyes stream, but you don't stop. The roar of the fire is a deafening, all-consuming beast that your defiant shouts and the growing blaze eventually rouse the town's braver souls. The farmer whose plow you fixed, the parents who signed your charter, may appear out of the darkness with their own buckets, a small, determined militia joining the fray. Together, you battle the inferno, and slowly, miraculously, you begin to win. The roaring flames give way to hissing steam, the towering wall of fire collapsing into a smoldering, blackened ruin dot as the first pale, gray light of dawn spills into the valley. The fight is over. One entire wall of the schoolhouse is a charred skeleton of timbers, open to the sky. The air is thick with the smell of wet ash and burnt dreams. You, Anna, and the small band of neighbors stand exhausted, soot-stained, and silent, surveying the devastation. The thugs you fought have long since dragged themselves away into the night. The neighbors offer quiet words of support before departing, promising to return with tools and lumber. Soon, it is just you and Anna again, standing in the quiet, smoky aftermath. The adrenaline has faded, leaving behind a bone-deep weariness and a cold, simmering rage. He didn't win, Anna says, her voice raspy from the smoke, her face streaked with soot and tears. As long as one wall is standing, he didn't win. You nod, your admiration for her unbreakable spirit a solid presence in your chest. While you inspect the structural damage to the roof beams, she begins to assess the ruin inside. She moves through the charred, waterlogged classroom, her movements slow and deliberate. She picks up a fallen book, its pages swollen and ruined. It is near the spot where you first struck down the man with the torch. As she kneels, her hand brushes against something hard under a half-burned desk. "Caleb," she says, her voice suddenly sharp with a different kind of intensity. You turn and go to her side. She is pulling a book from the debris. But it's not a school book. It's a thick, leather-bound volume with a brass clasp. A business ledger. The man you struck must have dropped it in the chaos of the fight. You bring it over to the surviving part of the room, near her desk. You light a lantern against the gloom, and she opens it. The pages are filled with neat columns of figures and terse, coded entries. It is a record of Thorne's secret business, his shadow enterprise. Anna, whose merchant father taught her the language of money, understands what she is seeing. This is double-entry bookkeeping, she whispers, her finger tracing a column. Debits and credits. But the credits, they don't make sense. She points to a series of payments made to the men who attacked the school, listed simply as security expenses. This is his private account, the one he uses to pay for his dirty work. She turns the pages, her excitement growing. She is no longer a victim surveying a ruin. She is a hunter on the scent of her prey. She is holding the key to his entire criminal enterprise. Then she stops. Her breath catches in her throat. She points to a page that is mostly blank, except for a few innocuous-looking notes. This is odd, she murmurs. A blank page. In the middle of all these entries. Remembering a trick her father, a man who dealt with his own share of scoundrels, had once shown her. She carefully holds the page up to the heat of the lantern's chimney dot slowly, as the paper warms, faint. Brown writing begins to appear, ghost-like, on the page. It was written in lemon juice, a simple but effective form of invisible ink. The writing is a series of notes, a litany of Thorne's sins. Details of how he systematically bought up homesteaders' debts, then used intimidation fires, dead cattle to drive them off their land. He was not a brilliant capitalist, as some historians might argue in their debates about the West's robber barons. He was a common predator, a vulture whose progress was built on the ruins of other people's lives. And then she finds it, the final damning entry. It's a note detailing a small payment made to her own husband 6 months ago, listed as final negotiation, and directly below it, another, almost clinical note. Acquired Vance claim following unfortunate accident. Air leaves the room. It's all there. Thorne didn't just profit from her husband's death. He orchestrated it. Anna doesn't cry. The grief in her eyes is instantly burned away by a fire far hotter than the one that consumed her school. It is a fire of pure, righteous fury. She closes the ledger with a soft, final thud. The sound echoes in the ruined schoolroom like a gavel falling on a guilty man's life. She looks up at you, and the woman you've come to know, the gentle teacher, the determined survivor, is gone. In her place is an avenger, her eyes like chips of ice. "No," she says, her voice low and dangerously calm. "I know how to destroy him." The morning dawns on a town simmering with tension. News of the fire has spread like the blaze itself, and with it, the story of your brutal fight. The town is a powder keg. People whisper in small, frightened groups, torn between their fear of Thorne and a newfound, fragile admiration for your defiance. Just as the tension becomes unbearable, a lone rider appears on the horizon. Not a cowboy, not a prospector, but a man in a black coat, riding with an air of undeniable authority. He is followed by a U.S. Marshal dot. It is Judge Elias Vance, the traveling circuit judge, making his semi-annual visit to dispense federal law in this lawless territory. His arrival is an act of providence, a sudden shift in the balance of power. For the first time, there is an authority in Redemption Gulch higher than Marcus Thorne. Anna knows this is her only chance. The ledger sits on her desk, a heavy leather bound. "Bong, we have to go to him now, Caleb," she says, her voice steel, "before Thorne can get to him first. Your role is clear. You are no longer just a blacksmith. You are her shield. You walk beside her as she carries the ledger, wrapped carefully in a cloth. Your hand rests on the handle of the heavy hammer tucked into your belt. Every shadow seems to hold a threat, every window a potential sniper. The short walk from the schoolhouse to the saloon, which the judge has commandeered for his impromptu court, is the longest walk of your life. The saloon is packed. The smell of stale beer and fear hangs heavy in the air. The townsfolk have crowded in to witness the final act of this drama. Judge Vance, an imposing man with a gray beard and eyes that have seen everything, sits at a large poker table. Thorne is already there, flanked by his lawyer, his expression one of supreme confidence. He believes this is still his stage, that he can spin a tale of a hysterical woman and a violent blacksmith to this visiting official. He sees you and Anna enter, and a smug, dismissive sneer crosses his lips. The judge calls the hearing to order, his voice a low boom that commands instant silence. This is no longer the rule of man, where Thorne's word is law. This is the rule of law, where evidence is supposed to matter. The entire town holds its breath to see which is stronger. Thorne's lawyer speaks first, painting a picture of you as a violent drifter with a mysterious past, and Anna as an unstable woman who likely started the fire herself in a fit of pique. Thorne himself speaks, his voice smooth and reasonable, expressing his deep disappointment in the schoolteacher's unsuitability. Then the judge turns his piercing gaze to Anna. Mrs. Kane, he says, his use of her married name a small, significant acknowledgement. You may speak. Anna walks to the front of the room. The judge's marshal holds out a worn Bible. She places her left hand upon it, raises her right, and her voice rings out clear and true. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. The ancient ritual of the Bible oath settles a hush of solemnity over the rowdy saloon. She does not begin with accusations. She begins her story. She tells of her arrival, of her hopes for the school, of the town's initial support. Then she details the campaign of intimidation, the vandalism, the threats, the arson, her voice steady and factual, without a trace of hysteria. Mr. Thorne has claimed, I have no evidence for these accusations. She says, her voice gaining strength. He is mistaken. She unwraps the ledger and places it on the table before the judge. His own men dropped. This during the attack last night? It is Mr. Thorne's private ledger. A murmur goes through the crowd. Thorne's face goes rigid. Anna opens the book and begins to read. She reads the entries aloud, the payments for security, the dates of which correspond perfectly with the acts of vandalism. She explains the double-entry bookkeeping, the hidden slush fund. Then she asks the marshal for the lantern from the judge's table. She carefully holds the blank page to the chimney's heat. Before the eyes of the entire town, the damning brown words appear like a devil's scripture. She reads the list of homesteaders who are threatened off their land. And then she reads the final entry, her voice ringing with the cold fury of justice. A payment to John Vance for final negotiation. She reads, her voice catching, for only a second on her late husband's name. And below it, acquired Vance claim following unfortunate accident. A collective gasp fills the room. It is a confession of murder, written in the murderer's own hand. Thorne, his face. A mask of pure primal panic lunges forward, a wild animal trying to destroy the evidence that will destroy him. Lies, it's a forgery. He screams, his hands reaching for the book, for Anna. But you are there. You move with a speed that no one thought possible. A blur of motion that intercepts him mid-lunge. You don't strike him. You don't need to. You simply become a wall of solid iron, your body absorbing his momentum, stopping him dead. Your physical power, once the source of your shame, is now used for its purest purpose. To protect, to shield, to allow justice to be served. Judge has seen enough. He bangs his fist on the table, the sound like a gunshot. Marcus Thorne, you are under arrest for arson, conspiracy to defraud, and on suspicion of murder, he bellows. Marshal, take this man and his accomplices into custody. The verdict echoes in the stunned silence. Thorne, his face slack with disbelief, is seized by the marshal. His reign of terror is over. You stand beside Anna, your arm a protective barrier around her, as she looks not at the ruined man being dragged away, but at the faces of the townspeople. They are no longer looking at her with suspicion or fear, but with awe. The judgment has been delivered. The rule of law has finally come to Redemption Gulch. The judge's verdict lands in the saloon like a thunderclap, and in the stunned silence that follows, the world shifts on its axis. The moment the marshal lays a hand on Marcus Thorne's shoulder, the spell of fear that has held Redemption Gulch in its thrall is broken. The air, once thick with menace, now feels light and clean. As Thorne, his face a mask of disbelief, is led away along with his snarling thugs, a slow, hesitant ripple of applause starts from the back of the room. Within seconds, it swells into a roar. The townspeople surge forward, not with a mob's fury, but with a flood of profound, tearful relief. The farmer whose plow you fixed claps you on the shoulder so hard it nearly knocks you over. Miller, the store owner, shakes your hand, his own trembling, and apologizes for his cowardice. The women of the town surround Anna, hugging her, thanking her, their faces wet with tears. You and she are no longer outsiders. You are the town's saviors. The shattering of Thorne's tyranny is swift and absolute. With its head cut off, his criminal enterprise withers and dies. His businesses, built on debt and intimidation, are seized by the banks his ledger exposed. His name, once spoken with fear, is now spoken with contempt. Redemption Gulch is finally free to live up to its name. The proof of this new freedom comes the very next morning. As the sun rises, you and Anna stand before the charred ruin of the schoolhouse, the task of rebuilding seeming immense, impossible. Then you hear them. The sound of wagons, of hammers, of voices raised in common purpose. The town is coming. Led by the farmer, a small army of volunteers arrives. They bring lumber, tools, and a quiet determination to right the wrong that was done. What follows is a frontier miracle, a school raising. It is the living embodiment of the community spirit that Thorne tried so hard to poison. You find yourself at the heart of it, your skills now used not for secret repairs, but for open creation. You are a general commanding an army of builders. You direct the men as they tear down the charred timbers and raise a new, stronger frame. Your forge roars to life, not to make weapons, but to shape new iron braces and hinges. Your hammer ringing with the sound of construction. Not conflict. Anna is a general of a different sort. She organizes the women who have brought great pots of stew and fresh-baked bread, turning the worksite into a communal feast. She directs the children who, with a solemn purpose, begin to gather the small, significant remnants of the fire. They take a large clay jug, and in a folk tradition, some of them brought from back home, they begin to create a memory jug. They press pieces of charcoal, a shard of the broken window glass, and a bent nail into a layer of wet clay, transforming the symbols of their terror into a work of art, a testament to their resilience that will one day sit in a place of honor in their new school. You work side by side with Anna all day. The awkward silence between you is gone, replaced by the easy, efficient communication of true partners. You move around each other with a familiarity that speaks volumes. There is no need for pretense. Your alliance, forged in secrets and tested by fire, is now on public display. Everyone can see what you are to each other. As evening falls, the work is nearly done. The last of the volunteers head home. their faces tired but filled with a pride you haven't seen before. You and Anna are left alone, sitting on the new porch of the almost finished schoolhouse, sharing a plate of stew as the stars begin to appear. "I finally feel like he has justice," she says quietly, looking at the new building. "My husband. I came here to run away from his memory, I think. But now I feel like I've built a monument to him." You look at her, at the strength and grace that radiates from her, and you feel the last of your own ghosts begin to settle. The myth of the rugged individual is a lonely lie. You, the solitary man, could not have done this. She, the solitary woman, could not have done this. But together, and with the help of the very community you once shunned, you have accomplished the impossible. The frontier doesn't just make individuals. It forces them to realize they cannot survive alone. "You did good, Anna," you say, the simple words carrying the weight of all you have been through. She smiles, a genuine, warm smile that lights up her whole face. "We did good, Caleb." You sit together in the comfortable silence, watching the moon rise over the valley. The tyrant is gone. The school is whole. And the partnership you entered into as a desperate measure has been tempered in the heat of conflict into something strong, true, and undeniable. The weeks that follow the rebuilding are a time of quiet grace. The school thrives, now filled with nearly every child in the district. The town of Redemption Gulch, free from the yoke of Thorn's tyranny, begins to prosper in a real and sustainable way. A new life settles over the valley, as calm and steady as the flow of the creek after a storm. Your own life finds a new rhythm as well. The forge is no longer a place you hide, but simply a place where you work. The ghosts of your past have not vanished, but their whispers have grown quiet, drowned out by the sounds of a living town and the frequent, welcome laughter of the schoolteacher. It is a late afternoon in September, the air crisp and golden. You are in your forge, putting the finishing touches on a project you have been working on in secret. It is a new gate for the schoolyard, crafted from wrought iron with graceful swirls that mimic the elegant handwriting of its teacher. As you deliver the final, ringing blows with your hammer, another sound joins it, rolling across the town. From the other end of the street, it is the clear, bright peal of the school bell, rung by Anna to dismiss her students for the day. The two sounds, the ring of your anvil and the peal of her bell, mingle in the afternoon air. They are the twin heartbeats of the new Redemption Gulch, a harmony of iron and intellect, of strength and hope. It is the sound of the future you have forged together. A short while later, after the last of the children have run home, she walks down the dusty street to your forge. She doesn't come with a problem or a request, but simply with a small basket containing a loaf of fresh bread and a jar of apple butter, a simple gift of companionship. She stands in the doorway, watching you work, her presence a comfortable, welcome warmth against the heat of the fire. You are not working on the gate. In your hands is a small, intricate piece of steel. You are forging a strike-a-light, a flint and steel. Set for her, the steel striker is not a simple bar. You have worked it into the shape of a graceful feather, and at its base you have skillfully forged her initial, a single elegant A, the Jeffersonian ideal of the agrarian myth. She says softly, her voice making you look up, "Was built on the yeoman farmer and the independent artisan, the virtuous, self-sufficient citizen as the bedrock of the republic." You pause your work, looking at her. "It's a nice story," you say, your voice a low rumble. "But being a self-sufficient individual is a lonely business, and a dangerous one." "Yes," she agrees, a soft smile on her lips. Perhaps the myth was incomplete. Perhaps true independence isn't being alone. Perhaps it's being a vital part of a community you helped to build. She looks around at your forge, at the tools of your trade, and choosing to share your life with a partner. She talks then of her new dream, A plan to bring a traveling Chautauqua to town next summer, a series of lectures, music, and plays for the adults held in the schoolhouse in the evenings. She wants to bring the whole world of ideas to this small, isolated valley. Her vision no longer ends with the children. It encompasses everyone. You listen, your heart full. When she finishes, you take the now finished strike-a-light from the quenching tub. It is cool, dark, and beautiful. You hand it to her. For your lamp, you say, so you can always make your own light. She takes it from you, her fingers, closing over yours for a long mint. The calluses on your hand are a map of your hard life. The warmth of hers is a compass pointing toward a new one. Caleb, she whispers, her eyes shining in the firelight. You gave me more than protection. You gave me the courage to find my own strength. And you say, your voice, thick with an emotion you no longer fight. You made me remember what my hands were for, not to break things, but to build. You lean in and kiss her. It is not the chaste, desperate kiss of a business arrangement, but a kiss of profound and unwavering love. It is the meeting of two worlds, the forge and the schoolhouse, the hammer and the book. It is the final, perfect well-dot later. You walk with her hand in hand to the schoolhouse and hang the new gate. It swings smoothly on its hinges, a perfect fit. You stand together, looking at the schoolhouse, then at each other, as the stars begin to prick the deep velvet of the sky. The future you both thought was lost has been found, not in a lonely act of survival, but in the shared, quiet work of building a life together. Side by side, the forge is quiet now, its great heart banked for the night, a soft red glow promising a return with the dawn. The sounds of Redemption Gulch have settled into the gentle rhythm of the evening, the soft chirp of crickets, the distant, mournful call of a train whistle, the creak of a porch swing down the street. The light still burning in the schoolhouse window is no longer a solitary beacon of defiance, but a warm, welcoming hearth, the center of a home. The story of the blacksmith and the schoolteacher has woven itself into the fabric of the town, a tale of how courage can be found in the most unexpected places. It speaks of a man who learned that true strength is not in the power to destroy, but in the will to protect, and of a woman who learned that her sharpest weapon was not a gun, but her own unbreakable mind. Theirs is the story of the West itself, a place of brutal hardship and profound grace, where the past can be buried but never truly forgotten, and where the future is not something you find, but something you build with sweat and iron, with hope and heart together. The day is done. The town is at peace. End of script. Sweet dreams.